Okay, so this is gonna be part two to my video discussing biology and homosexuality. So I sort of left the second video with two questions that I wanted to deal with. First, um, what's the third option, right? If you buy my shit about it being biological, actually being not a great choice and counterproductive, um, what's the third option? Uh, and to me, the third option should be is something that we don't really have at all in society today, and it's just sort of an admission that we don't know, right? We don't understand um, what what homosexuality is, and we don't understand what sexuality is more generally, perhaps, um, because I think that the status homosexuality currently has this status of being very, very ambiguous, very hard to pin down. No one knows exactly. Some people say it's a choice. Some people say it's not. Some people admit they don't know. Um, and I think that uh, this is the third option, and this is what needs to be embraced. I think this is an advantage that homosexuality has um, toward gaining uh, legitimate societal acceptance and respect at some point down the line. Obviously, it's not going to happen in a week or a year or 10 years or 20 years. Um, but I think trading on this sort of ambiguous nature of homosexuality as to it being a choice or as to it being biological or something else, um, I think this is a good thing. And I'll explain why. And so I think this is the view that should be embraced, right? That we don't know. We just don't know. It's fundamentally mysterious. It's fundamentally different and beyond what we're able to understand right now, or maybe ever. Um, and like I said, I think that's an advantage for homosexuality, and I think it's one that needs to be pressed very hard. And here's why I think it's an advantage. Uh, I mentioned in the first video at some point that the track record of biological bases for um, differences between people, the track record for that kind of thing when it comes to achieving social equality is um, staggeringly poor, I would say. Um, just disastrous. Uh, I mean, if you only take social equality to mean legal equality, then okay, maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. Um, African Americans are no longer slaves. Women can vote. Uh, we can't legally discriminate against hiring someone or letting them into our place of business based on race or sex. You know, if that's all you're after, and you think social equality is maps perfectly one to one with legal equality, um, that's fine. I think you're crazy, um, but that's fine. But if you don't, if you think like I do that there's got to be something more. I mean, if and I appeal to the feminists out there on this one. If I mean, and okay, granted, there are certain things legally that haven't been achieved yet. Women still get paid less. Uh, you know, um, black people are in prison at disproportionate rates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Granted those, um, I still think there's something beyond all that that is a problem. It's an attitude, and even if all those things were remedied, uh, all those legal things were remedied, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable saying perfect equality has been achieved. Uh, you know, all problems have been solved. Um, And like I said, I appeal to the feminists out there, or the race theorists out there, who are watching this. You know, do you think that solving all the legal problems would be the same as solving all the problems full stop? I would be surprised if anyone would say yes. I mean, if women were paid the same, would feminism be obsolete? I doubt that anyone would support that view, or very few people anyway. And so this is what I'm talking about. There's something more beyond simple legal equality. And I think we see this in feminism and in race theory, black studies, whatever you want to call it, with African Americans. They, for the most part, again with certain caveats, have achieved a high degree of legal equality, I would say. I feel comfortable saying that. And if you don't, that's fine. We can talk about it. But I do right now. And yet, to my mind, there's still a clear need for analyzing race and gender, sex, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I know they're different. I don't have time to get into that. You know, whatever. And I think actually we can see an understanding about this in a lot of contemporary race and gender theory and feminism. I mean, think about, for the longest time, there was this movement, as there is in the queer movement right now, or homosexual movement, whatever you decide to call it. There was this movement towards, pretty much pure political equality. This was the goal. That's what we're focused on. You can see it in the women's movement early on. That was the goal. In the in the civil rights movement early on, that was the goal. But now it's a little different. Now that women and African Americans have seen what's going on, what it's like to have, for the most part, legal equality. They're realizing that that's not everything. All the problems are not solved. And now I would argue, if you look, there's movements in the opposite direction, away from the sort of hardline, legalistic, biological, deterministic, differences. Women are different than men, or women are, or in the case of women, women are basically the same as men. Da 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 da. But the point being, both of these movements have used biology in the sense that we can't change what we are as justification for non-discrimination, right? But now my contention is that there's a movement in the opposite direction. There's a movement towards muddying those waters a little bit, if you will. I mean, if you look at someone like Judith Butler, her whole whether or not you respect Judith Butler, I do, but whether or not you do, I think we can agree about what she's doing, mostly. And that is, she's trying to undo, I believe, the damage that has been done by biological determinism for the equality of women in society. Because now that it's accepted, it's not as great as everyone thought it was going to be. And there's still so many problems with women. And if you look in race theory too, this is happening, right? People are starting to say, oh, well, there's no such thing as race. It's not actually, it's a social construct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And whether or not you agree that those arguments are valid, this is the movement now. It's a movement away from the biology because because just appealing to biology didn't work. And there are still clearly all these problems in society for women and for black people, and other races too, you know. But I'm just going to focus on that for now. They're realizing that just appealing to biology isn't good enough. It doesn't solve the problems, and in fact, it may serve to make it harder to identify what the real problems are, I think. And so we see this movement in people like Judith Butler and in certain people in critical race theory and in Black studies more broadly, this movement away from the biology and towards a more ambiguous, less straightforward and determined vision of what we are, right, or of what they are. And so my point is then that homosexuality already has this ambiguity going for it. No one knows exactly what it is. I mean, people say they do, but I think it's still fundamentally ambiguous in society, and I think that's an advantage. I think that's an advantage to homosexuality, and it's one that should be pressed, because they can just forego, to my mind, they can forego the simple legalistic biological equality, and shoot for something higher. They can shoot for real respect and real understanding, and then perhaps real equality. And I think that's valuable, and I think it's something that needs to be thought about. So let me know what you think. And you know, again, as always, I am notoriously unclear. So if you have questions, make me a video, comment. Let's, you know, I want to talk about it. But what you shouldn't do is assume I'm saying something if you're confused. Don't assume I'm saying something offensive, you know, or clearly wrong or stupid. Because I hope I'm not. Maybe I am. But don't assume if you're confused. Ask, or whatever. So let me know what you think. I'm really interested to hear. Thanks.